I am here to demonstrate how to do the Kitchener stitch. And before I get started, I want to tell you there's nothing to be afraid of, nothing to worry about. Sure, it's tricky at first, but everything is tricky at first. And if you just get it out of your mind, it is not a scary thing, nothing to be frightened of, you'll get it too. To set up your Kitchener stitch, or your work to do the Kitchener stitch, you need to ensure that you have equal amount of stitches on two separate needles that you're going to hold, one in the back, one in the front. You're going to hold them in your left hand with the tips facing to the right. To begin, you're going to have a length of your working yarn in the back here. And a general rule of thumb is make the length of your working yarn, because you do need to cut it, you're going to add a needle to it, is to make it 3 times the length of your work that you want to seam. Okay, so to get started, you have your needles. You want both the wrong sides of your work facing, because once you seam it, it's going to come like this. So unless your pattern specifies something different, this is kind of the general setup. Both wrong sides facing, needles parallel, hold them in your left hand, tips to the right. Working yarn in the back. Okay, so I'm going to thread my yarn needle here. Now, there is a setup before you start the Kitchener. So there's 2 sets of instructions you need to memorize. To begin, you're going to go down through the bottom. You're going to go purlwise into the first stitch on the bottom needle, or in the front needle. And you'll hear everyone's terminology a little bit differently. And then you're going to take and go and leave this stitch on the needle. And then you're going to go knitwise through the first stitch on the back needle. Okay, and then you're going to kind of pull it tight. And now you're going to begin the repeatable section of Kitchener. So the instructions are, you're going to go knitwise through the front stitch, and then you're going to remove that from your needle, and then you're going to go purlwise into this new first stitch, or the second stitch, however it's written, and leave that on the needle. Okay, now you're going to come to your back needle, and you're going to go purlwise into that first stitch and take it off, and then go knitwise through this new first stitch and leave it on. Okay, so now you can't tell, but you're doing it, and it's starting to seam. It's starting to look really good. So again, let me see here. Sorry, there's so many ends here. Knitting can be really cumbersome. Okay, knitwise through the first stitch, take it off, purlwise through the second stitch, or the new first stitch, and leave it on. Now you're going to go to the back, purlwise, take it off, knitwise, leave it on. Okay, and then you're going to pull it snug, and you're going to continue in this pattern until you reach the end. And you can see, look at how nice that looks. It looks so good. Okay, I'm going to tell you how I remember it. And again, take it or leave it. If you get what I've just done, hit pause, move on, and you're good to go. This is how I do my Kitchener stitch. Since knitting you typically do on the right side of your work, I call this the right side needle. And since you typically purl on the wrong side, I call this the wrong side needle. So front is the right side, back is the wrong side. And that's just a little mental trick I use to remember it. So you knit on the right side, or the front side, take it off, and you purl there. And so now you're going to purl on the wrong side, or the back side, take it off, and then you're going to go knitwise. All right, so that was trick number 1, how I remember it. Front side is the right side, you knit. Back side is the wrong side, you purl. So that's trick number 1. Trick number 2 is I always find that when I'm doing my Kitchener, and especially if I'm watching TV or have people around me, I will go in through the first needle, take it off, and then I might get distracted and then not know where I am. Did I just take a stitch off? Did I just go down through the second needle to leave it on? Especially on like fingering weight yarn, it's hard to tell. Here you can clearly tell what I just did. So let me just finish this stitch here. So what I do is So we're going to go through the back. We're going to go purlwise. I take that stitch off immediately, and I go through this stitch immediately, knitwise, and then I finish pulling my yarn through. So again, I immediately take this first stitch off. I immediately go purlwise into the next stitch, and then I pull it up. And so that way I have never forgotten what I've just done. If I do put my work down or get distracted, I'll know I've just completed this side, so now it's time to go to this side. So I'll take it off, I'll go knitwise into the next stitch, pull it tight. And that's my trick number 2. So that is how I stay sane while I do this, especially if you're working on a very large piece that you need to seam together. Okay, so just to reiterate, in through the first stitch knitwise on the front, take it off, down purlwise through the second stitch, leave it on, come to the back, purlwise, take it off, knitwise, leave it on. Oops. And there you have the Kitchener stitch.